Hey everyone, Jason from Smegg here, and while I get back into full-on content creation, I wanted to take a few minutes to show everyone an amazing project that is cooking along right now on its Kickstarter. It's a project that you can actually play the tech demo for right this second, which we are about to do. Everyone who follows our streams knows that I am a sucker for simulators, not just the chill, let my brain rest kind of simulators like Power Wash or Supermarket Simulator, or even Gas Station Simulator, but flight sims, space sims, train sims, almost my entire life I have been into those. And honestly, the more buttons and gizmos and doohickeys and displays and just parts in general, the better. I've always been obsessed with like buttons and switches. They say it's an ADHD thing, but I don't know. Anyway, the simulator has it all. Developed by Fleetyard Studios, Starship Simulator literally asks the question, if you were given the keys to an actual real, fully functioning interstellar starship, what would you do with it? The ships will be modeled and simulated from the ground up with every pipe, wire, conduit, system, and monitor available for you to manage, or in my case, typically mess up. You'll be able to fulfill the role of several types of crew, from command staff to engineers, tourists to chefs. That galaxy is yours. And speaking of the galaxy, the Milky Way itself is simulated. You can literally pick a star anywhere and say, let's go check that out. From gas giants to rocky worlds, nebula to terrifying black holes, it's all there for you to discover. You may even answer that age-old question that we have pondered for eternity. Are we alone out here? Right now, Starship Simulator is in the middle of its Kickstarter campaign, and I think we can see that the desire for a full-on space simulator is more than apparent. They've already reached a few stretch goals, including native room-scale VR support, shuttles and alien structures, and just recently, planetary landings. Feel free to join the growing community that is making all of this reality and help us reach even more of these stretch goals. I have myself recently, and honestly, I can't wait to see what becomes of this. I'll leave a link in the description to the Kickstarter page and to the developer's YouTube channel where they do live streams and Q&As. It's very cool to watch. They're very cool people. But for now, I want to dive into the engineering tutorial that shows us how to fire up the reactor itself and provide power to the entire ship. And maybe we'll even, if we got some time, we can try out the FTL drives and visit a nearby star system. So, without further ado, because that's a lot of ado, let's go check it out.
Welcome to the Magellan Class Cold Start Training Module. My name is Ava. I'm the UN Space Fleet's AI voice assistant.
Hello.
In this module, we will review the correct procedure for starting up the ship's fusion reactor and then supplying power to the vessel.
Sounds complicated.
The ship is currently in a cold and dark state, so for your safety, I have taken the liberty of turning on your torch for you.
Thanks.
To begin,
Thoughtful.
follow the waypoints on your HUD to the lower floor of the reactor room.
It is dark without it. Alright, so we are in basically the bottom of the ship. We're on F deck. So we're going to make our way over to the engineering deck. Here we go. It's very cool looking. Alright, and downstairs to G deck.
As you can see, the reactor is offline, and none of the ship's systems are powered. Our first task is to provide power to the engineering decks, so let's make our way to the start capacitor's room.
Oh, okay.
Follow the waypoints on your HUD to the startup distributor.
Alright. Again, it's a tech demo, so the bulk of these rooms in the ship are empty. But they've added the stuff to make the engineering, the reactor system, power system basically functional. So there are like a full A through G decks, and it's a circular hull, so you can like go to each deck and go into the rooms and stuff. Most of them are empty, but we
As
have...
its name suggests, the startup distributor routes energy from the start capacitors to the engineering decks, and also provides the reactor with the power it needs to create the initial fusion reaction. You'll notice the device is already powered, because the start capacitors are fully charged.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and get some lights on by connecting all of the breakers. Start with the G-deck breakers, as indicated.
So this fires up G and F decks, so the engineering decks, and basically allows you to, it's like the battery in your car allows you to fire up the initial reactors, or the initial reactions, I guess I should say. So we're going to fire all of these fuses up.
And now the F-deck breakers.
You see that the lights are coming on around us. Emergency lights, anyway.
And finally, the reactor supply itself. Excellent. Now we can see what we're doing. You can go ahead and turn off your torch by pressing T.
Start capacitor
The reactor
feed.
controls should now be online, so let's walk back to the reactor room and take a look.
Start capacitor feed is coming up here to the capacitor. So I imagine, like, you probably, like, at dock or something, get connected to, like, moorings or something that, or umbilicals maybe that will feed external power into that to charge those capacitors, I imagine. I don't know, but it seems. And now the doors are working.
This console displays the reactor's vital information and provides you with full control over the reactor and its subsystems. On the left-hand side, we have the coolant section, which shows the liquid helium coolant flow and the condition of the magnetic field coils. On the right-hand side, we have the electrical section, which shows the reactor's main electrical bus, along with its input and output feeds. In the center, we have the reactor's main display, where we can control the fusion reaction itself. As you can see from all of these alarms, it would be impossible to initiate a stable fusion reaction under the current conditions, so let's fix that.
Okay.
The first thing we need to do is supply power to the reactor's internal bus, so go ahead and switch the reactor to startup mode by pressing the indicated button.
So that, I imagine, is allowing us to take the power from the startup capacitors. We get feed reactor start there. So if we go to startup mode...
Now that the reactor has power, we can
go.
activate the vacuum pump to start purging the confinement chamber.
Okay.
The chamber pressure should now be dropping. To sustain a fusion reaction, we need an internal pressure of less than 10 nanopascals. While we wait for the confinement chamber to reach its target pressure, let's take care of the reactor's fuel and coolant supplies. Exit the reactor room via the door behind you, and follow the waypoints on your HUD to the
cryogenic storage room? Okay. Hello.
These storage tanks hold all of the cryogenic fluids that are used to both fuel and cool the reactor. All 4 tanks are currently empty, so our first task is to begin the filling process. Let's start with the helium coolant. Head behind the storage tanks to access the helium cryocooler.
All right.
The cryocoolers use a process called magnetic refrigeration to convert gas into a cryogenic fluid, before pumping it into the connected storage tank. Start up the helium cryocooler now by using the indicated control on its user interface. Excellent. Now if you turn around, you'll find the helium refill valve located on the back wall. These valves control the flow of gases harvested by the ship's gas collection hardware, which is located on the underside of the forward hull. Go ahead and open the helium supply valve now to begin supplying the cryocooler with helium gas.
Okay.
If you turn around again and inspect the display screen connected to the helium tank, you should be able to confirm that the tank is now filling with fluid. We now need to perform the same sequence of events for the other 3 tanks. Head over to the helium-3 cryocooler next.
There we go. You can see we're getting 1,300 liters. The temperature's going down since it's cryo fluid, basically. We got a pressure of 20 bars. Okay, so helium-3.
Helium-3 is the first of 2 fuels used in the fusion reaction.
Okay.
As before, power up the device using its user interface.
Alright, chiller online.
And now open the helium-3 refill valve behind you to start filling its associated tank.
Okay, that's the other one.
Next, we need to start filling the 2 deuterium tanks. So let's head over to the other side of the room.
Alright, so over here again, we should see the fill level going up. Temperature's going down, so that's filling. Alright, deuterium.
Deuterium, also known as heavy hydrogen, is the second of the 2 fusion fuels. We store double the amount of deuterium compared to helium-3, because deuterium also fuels the reactor's neutral beam injectors. As before, turn on the first deuterium cryocooler.
Whatever a neutral beam injector is, I like it. I like the sound of it.
And now the first deuterium refill valve behind you. Next, turn on the second deuterium cryocooler.
Alright, we got that filling, so let's do the second one.
And now the second deuterium refill valve. Okay, perfect. All 4 storage tanks should now be filling with cryogenic fluids. For our next task, we now need to engage the cryopumps in order to start supplying the reactor with everything it needs.
Okay.
Make your way around to the other side of the tanks and locate the deuterium tank outflow valve.
Alright. Outflow valve it is. You can actually see now that a couple of minutes have passed that the tanks are filling up pretty good. Alright, deuterium outflow valve.
Open the deuterium outflow valve to begin supplying fluid to its connected cryopump. Next, power on the pump itself using the button indicated on its user interface.
Alright, pump
Excellent.
is online.
That's half of the fuel mix taken care of. Now head over to the helium-3 tank outflow valve so we can complete the fuel supply. As before, begin by opening the helium-3 outflow valve. And now engage the helium-3 cryopump. Perfect. All we have to do now is take care of the coolant flow. Head over to the helium tank outflow valve. Now open the helium outflow valve. And finally, power on the helium cryopump. There we go. The reactor is now being supplied with all the fuel and coolant it needs.
Alright.
Follow the waypoints back to the reactor room, where we have just a few more valves to open.
Looks like some of this maybe needs to be modeled still, but I know that there's probably absolutely situations in which you would open these other valves and whatnot. But looks good. Let's go back to the reactor.
To complete the coolant loop, open the helium inflow valve to start flowing coolant through the magnetic field coils.
So the helium is the coolant.
Now make your way around to the opposite side of the reactor to complete the fuel supply process.
Okay.
First, open the deuterium inflow valve.
Deuterium.
And now open the helium-3 inflow valve.
Helium-3.
Okay, great. Let's head over to the reactor controls and take a look at the coolant display.
Okay.
As you can see, we now have coolant flowing into the reactor.
Yeah.
This has begun the process of cooling down the magnetic field coils, which must reach temperatures below 20 Kelvin in order to become superconductive. Once the coils have reached their target temperature, okay, the temperatures look good. You can now power up the field coils.
So we've gone to high temp to temp warning, and that's all clearing out. So now we can engage the field coils.
With a solid vacuum established, the field coils powered up, and fuel flowing into the reactor, you are now free to initiate the fusion reaction.
Alright, let's go.
Congratulations! You have now successfully started the fusion reactor.
Alright.
For safety, the reactor automatically starts up at only 10% of its rated power. This means high voltage systems, such as the FTL drive, will be underpowered until you increase the reactor output. Let's resolve that now. Increase the power level to 100% using the indicated controls.
Alright, let's take this from 10% up to 100.
You'll notice that you can increase the power beyond 100%, but doing so for an extended period will overheat the reactor, causing damage and forcing an uncontrolled shutdown. Okay, we now need to provide power to the rest of the ship. With the reactor now powering itself, you can go ahead and switch the internal bus mode from startup to supply.
Alright, since we're supplying power, we can stop using the startup capacitors, so...
Perfect. If we now head around to the opposite side of the reactor, The reactor output distributor should now be powered up.
Okay.
This device distributes the reactor's output to the ship's high-voltage systems, which are in fact the only systems powered directly by the reactor. The rest of the ship is powered by 48 individual battery arrays, which we now need to begin charging using the reactor's output. Go ahead and connect all 5 of the output breakers here.
Okay. We have supply distributor, weapons, shields, FTL distributor, and the batteries.
Excellent. If you turn to your left, you'll see the 5 high-voltage distributors are now coming online. Head over to the main battery distributor. This device takes the high-voltage reactor feed and distributes it to each of the 8 battery rooms on F-deck. Go ahead and connect all 8 output breakers.
So it looks like we have, this is from the reactor, external feed, which I imagine if we're in space dock attached to moorings, we probably get that. And then there's an emergency solar array that we can use for emergency power, it looks like, if we need to in the future. But let's connect the batteries up.
Perfect. The battery arrays should now be charging, but we should perform a visual inspection to make sure.
Okay.
Follow the waypoints on your HUD to port battery room 1. The electrical supply on Magellan Class starships is divided into 4 isolated quadrants: forward, aft, port, and starboard. For increased redundancy, each quadrant is powered by 2 physically isolated battery rooms just like this one.
Okay.
Should the battery arrays in one room cease to function for any reason, the arrays in the second room will continue providing power to that particular quadrant. Similarly, power to one quadrant can be lost entirely, without impacting the supply to the remaining 3 quadrants. Okay, let's take a look at one of the individual battery arrays. On the left-hand side of the user interface, you have controls for managing the input and output breakers. And in the center, you have controls and information relating to this array's 10 solid-state battery cells.
Okay.
If we did everything correctly, all of the cells should now be slowly charging up.
They are.
For the next step, we now need to connect each of the 8 battery rooms to the ship's electrical grid. This task will take us into the ship's labyrinth of maintenance tunnels, so be sure to watch your head. Follow the waypoints on your HUD to port battery aggregator 1.
Alright. So we basically have 8 battery rooms supplying the power. So the reactor to the batteries, and then the batteries to the electrical grid, it looks like.
Each battery room has a corresponding battery aggregator, just like this one. These devices perform load balancing and also combine each room's 6 individual battery arrays into a single high-voltage feed.
Okay.
Go ahead and connect the output breaker now, which will connect this set of battery arrays to the ship's electrical grid.
Alright, port deck distributor.
Okay,
Connected.
1 down and 7 more to go. Next, head over to port battery aggregator. As before, connect this aggregator's output breaker.
Okay, so that's the
That
port
takes
battery.
care of the port battery rooms. Let's make our way to the forward quadrant next. Go ahead and connect the output breaker.
Forward battery, array 1.
And the same again on forward battery aggregator 2.
Array
Okay,
2.
onwards to the starboard quadrant. Same again, connect, and the second starboard aggregator. Almost done, just the aft quadrant to go.
Alright.
Connect up the first aft aggregator, And finally, the second aft aggregator.
Oops.
Okay, perfect. All 48 of the ship's battery arrays are now connected to the electrical grid.
Nice.
All we have to do now is supply power to the ship's remaining decks, and then perform a few cleanup tasks. We can do most of that from the reactor room, so let's head there now. Follow the waypoints on your HUD to the forward deck.
Alright, down to the G deck. Back into the reactor room. You will find there are maps in the inside ring of each deck, so you can kind of take a look at the layout. See where you're at and find your way around, which is great for me because I get lost just going down a hallway. Alright.
Each deck in a given quadrant is fed by a deck distributor, which takes the total electrical load of that quadrant, and then load balances it between the two connected battery aggregators. Go ahead and connect the output breakers for all 7 decks in this quadrant.
Okay, so this is all for the forward quadrant.
Okay, now head over to the starboard deck distributor and do the same. And now the aft deck distributor.
Starboard. Aft quadrant.
And finally, the port deck distributor.
And port. So, we're taking power from the reactor. We set them to the batteries. Batteries are charging. Then we connected batteries to the aggregators, which is giving us like load balancing and whatnot. And now we're connecting those to the actual energy grid of the ship for each.
All quadrants on every deck now have power available from the ship's main battery arrays. You'll notice, however, that the ship is still under emergency lighting conditions, because F and G decks are still using the start capacitor's supply.
Okay.
To resolve this, we simply have to switch the 4 quadrant distributors on F and G decks over to the main battery feed. Head over to the G deck forward quadrant distributor. Each deck has 4 of these devices, 1 for each quadrant. They are fed by the corresponding deck distributor. Go ahead and switch this quadrant over to the main battery feed. That's better. Now we can really see what we're doing.
Yeah, we can.
Now head over to the starboard quadrant distributor and do the same. And now the aft quadrant distributor. And finally, the port quadrant distributor.
So you can see this quadrant still has the emergency lights on, but we're going to hit that.
That's G deck taken care of. Let's do the same for F deck.
We're good to go.
Head upstairs to the F deck forward quadrant distributor.
So we're going to do the same now for F deck. Switch everything over to there, because you can still see we're still on emergency power there. So let's switch these over.
As before. And now the same on the starboard quadrant distributor. And again on the aft quadrant distributor.
And of course, if you have a multi-crew, you have friends playing, and during a normal scenario you would have like NPC crew and stuff, you wouldn't necessarily have to do this all yourself. Or like if you wanted to be a chef or a steward, or I think a steward actually does include chefs, but a tourist or like a navigator, you wouldn't do any of this stuff.
And finally, the port quadrant distributor.
You would be just taking care of your particular job.
Well done. That's the main objectives of the cold start procedure complete.
Nice.
But we have one final bonus task to perform. Follow the waypoints on your HUD up to the bridge.
Alright, make the ship flight ready. Let's go. So this is F deck. So there's these. So there is an elevator, but it's still not working yet. But this particular one, you can see the shuttle bay, you can see a bridge, or a brig, sorry. You can see crew habitation quarters, storage, all of that kind of stuff that's going to be fleshed out as time goes, especially now that we are funded. I say we, but because we're all winners here. More crew habitation quarters on D deck. C deck is the science labs. So you can see over here we got science labs. Probe handling facility. And this is, I believe, B deck, which has staterooms. Storage, the kitchen galley, the VIP lounge, which we're about to go into. So this is the VIP lounge. And then you can go into like these areas. They're not finished yet, but they've got stuff in here that you can mess around with like this. So you can test the physics out, you can kick things around, you can throw things, you know, all tech stuff. All tech demo type stuff. But we got a piano, we got a bar. We go up the stairs. I love the views from these windows. But we have access to this corridor. We have... I think this is the no, this is the XO office. This is the conference room. This is the captain's office, which pretty much looks like the XO's office. And then this is the armory, which doesn't really have anything in it right now except a few odds and ends. But in here we've got the actual bridge itself.
The lights and bridge systems are still turned off, so let's bring everything online. Head over to the A-deck distributor in the engineering alcove. Now go ahead and turn on the bridge lighting. And now power up the bridge systems. Okay, there we go. You have successfully started the fusion reactor, routed power to all of the ship's decks, and brought the bridge online into a flight-ready state. This concludes the Magellan Class Cold Start training module.
Nice.
Good luck, and I hope you'll join me again in future training modules.
So, let's just take a quick look around the bridge. There is a particular tutorial for scanning and navigation and whatnot, and we can take a look at that at some point. But, just real quick, this is the science sensors section, and we've got a holographic map of the galaxy there. And we can switch that to the stellar region. So here's stars nearby. We can go to star system. We can see the star system we're in right now, which is ours. And then it lists planets and objects and things like that that you can check out. So, like, we'll click on Jupiter and it gives all of the stuff, all of the, like, science stuff on Jupiter that we know. And, tell you what, we'll send, even if, well, I don't think we need to scan it, but we'll send this to the helm. We have the captain's chair. We can set, yellow alert. We can set red alert from here right now. We can turn on emergency lighting. We can test disco mode. We can test alien virus mode. Anyway, that's kind of cool. I think this is still all work in progress. We can raise and lower the shield here. Reminds me of the old Battlestar Galactica, the original series, where they'd have like the big shield that would come up and protect the bridge. But right now we have the navigation chair, and here we've got RCS controls, which we can actually use the WASD for, or you can use that. These controls if you want to. Got navigation controls, the FTL system, autopilot, we got targeting. If we use sensor target, it's going to come up with a distance of 6.13 astronomical units, which is going to be Jupiter, and then if we hit the auto navigation, it's going to auto turn to Jupiter. There we go. Once it settles in, we can actually engage the FTL. Goodbye, Earth. It was nice knowing thee. So we're going to use 49% of our field power, and we're just going to zip across the solar system to Jupiter. There we go. FTL field should collapse here. Come to a stop. There we go. That looks amazing. But that's not all. We can go to another star system if we want. So if we go stellar region and take a look what's around us. Let's try going to Sirius, I guess. Are you serious? Here we go. Now, if we send to Helm, and typically, like, if you've got a full crew, like other people would be taking care of this, you wouldn't have to be going back and forth, but you absolutely can do that if you want. Disengage. We'll use our sensor target again. Engage the autopilot. And engage our FTL again. 100% field power this time because we are zipping far away. Goodbye, Jupiter. And goodbye, solar system. Alright, it's taken a minute or so, but we are finally coming. You see all the planets zipping by here. And we're going to drop out right next to Sirius. And that is bright. Because it's a star. There we go. Secure from STL. We'll secure from FTL. And we'll spin around so that... And there's Sol. We've got 8.49 light years away. And it's that easy to explore the stars. Alright, cool! I love it. I can't wait to dive more into this. We'll be doing more videos on this as more stuff becomes available, and we'll definitely be doing some exploration and checking things out. I cannot recommend this enough, guys. If you're into space sims, definitely go and check out the game. You can download the tech demo on Steam. Definitely check out the Kickstarter. Check out the dev streams that they've done. Find out all you can and join the Kickstarter campaign along with us and explore the stars. Until next time, guys, if you enjoyed this, please do the thumbs up thing, and if you want to see more content, of course, hit the subscribe button and all that kind of YouTube stuff that you already know how to do. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out. We'll see you in Star Trek Online again soon. I had a couple people pop in stream and ask if we're continuing, and I absolutely am. I am moved. My new setup is all set up. Things have finally calmed down. We're going to get back into it. So, until then, be excellent to each other. More importantly, be excellent to yourself. Please take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you later. All right, take care.